could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your life before the war? Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Oscar Bain. Was born in Lodz, Poland, on July the 21st, 1924. Parents, family was of four: mother, father, and an older sister. I was a student up to finish 7th grade in public schools, and then till the war started, I did work in a wholesale store.
You had how many brothers and sisters?
One sister.
One sister?
She was older than I was. And life wasn't easy for my parents. Worked day and nights. They were self-employed because they couldn't work, and a Jew could not work actually in a factory, although the factory was owned by the Jewish people.
Why is that?
The Poles didn't allow you. Anti-Semitism was pretty great in Poland before the war. They had already signs, even before the war there was a Jewish problem already in Poland, how to get rid of the Jews from Poland, but somehow they didn't have any money to do that.
What year was that?
This was to the 6th, to the 7th. They had signs in the stores, Polish stores: this is Christian establishment, and don't buy for a Jew. This was a daily occurrence shortly before the war. As a matter of fact, on days I used to have non-Jewish friends. Came times where I used to get in a fight. Then he beat me up. My Christian friends would beat me up. My father didn't do anything, just sat at home. When I beat my friend up, his father used to chase me, and Jew to Palestine. Jew, Hitler is coming. So eventually the war started in 1939. Curfews, couldn't get out in the evenings. They grab you to work. When they work you, they put your armband first. They grab you to work. Just do manual work, street cleaning, whatever it is.
The Poles did?
Big one?
The Poles grabbed you to work?
No, this was the Germans. And you went home. 1940, before Passover, they designated the old part of town as a Jewish ghetto. They transferred out the people who lived there, and the people from the city moved in. Right after Passover, they put fences around the ghetto, and the main roads which the streetcars had to go through were fenced off, and bridges across the streets. So the population from the Jewish ghetto could walk across, and gates for transportation for push cars.
Now, was your family already located in the ghetto?
Yeah, we were all together in the ghetto.
But did you have to move to the ghetto?
Yeah, we had to move to the ghetto, from the city to the ghetto.
So you had to leave your home?
Yes. And we just happened to have a pretty decent apartment. And I worked as an electric motor repairman in the ghetto, which gave me a little opportunities to work on the side also, which I could scavenge some extra food, because the food starts getting scarce. There was not much food left anymore. They began to ration. It wasn't that bad, but it was getting worse every day. And my father had a job in a lumber place, factory, so there were some wood shavings which used to bring home for heating purposes. So it wasn't that bad for us personally, which other people couldn't say the same thing.
Other people in the same ghetto?
In the same ghetto, we were the Jewish population of at the start of I believe in 1939 was over 200,000 in our city.
In the ghetto?
I don't believe there came in that many people to the ghetto, because they were shipping out some to out of town, whatever it is, because they emptied the ghetto. The designated area for the ghetto was emptied of people, and there was lots of Jews lived there. So I don't know how many, but I do believe maybe about 150, 180,000 people from the city moved into the ghetto. And life wasn't easy. People who couldn't help themselves, they were dying like flies. And
they were dying in the ghetto?
Oh yes.
From
starvation, mostly starvation, typhoid, whatever it is, And we were there till 1944, before August. Almost by the end of August, we were in the ghetto. And August 1944, we were shipped to Auschwitz-Birkenau. They separated us from the woman. I know for a fact that my mother perished in the gas chamber because we adopted two little cousins of my aunt and uncles, which they passed away in the ghetto. So she went with them. And fortunately, I and my father were spared, and we went to the camp. Luckily, we were only 2 weeks in Auschwitz. And came an electrical engineer and asked, who's the electrician? So my father said, he is. So he asked me a few questions. He knew how to answer. So my father said, my son is an electrician too. He looked at me, and it was a little hard to believe, the young fellow. So he gave me a stick and to draw a diagram of multi-system of bells, how to connect. So I drew it on the ground. He says, okay, you're going to. And
how old were you then?
19.
19 years old? Now what happened to your sister?
She stayed behind with a friend, which they were somehow engaged. So they left but never heard anything about it. I know one thing, that she left 1 week after we did, but never heard anything about her anymore. And
she stayed behind in the ghetto? She stayed behind in the ghetto?
Yeah, she stayed behind the ghetto, but she had to leave the last transport because we left before the last transport from the ghetto. And we arrived in a camp which belonged to Gross Rosen. Over there they were building a new camp. So we were the electricians, and we were installing the electricity to those camps. So it wasn't too easy, and one day while we were working there, they wanted everybody under 20 to register. The Germans wanted us to register anybody under 20. I'm a poor volunteer. I don't volunteer so easy. I volunteered one time, for instance, in Auschwitz to carry bricks for extra food because I knew they were walking by the women's camp, and maybe I will see somebody, which I know, maybe my mother, whoever. But I didn't get rewarded either. So since then, I didn't volunteer anymore. And they took all those 19-year-old, under 19, out from the camp, and I don't know whatever happened to them. But I was left behind.
And you were 19?
I was under 19, at 19 at the time. So we worked there, and then we transferred to another camp. Naturally, there was no picnic in that camp either. But then we were transferred to a different camp as camp electricians to be there just in charge anything goes wrong. And it was pretty decent over there to a point, you know, because we had enough food. We were able to steal food to live on.
From who?
From the Germans.
Within the camp, you would say?
Within the camp, yes. They were building bunkers for food, for potatoes. While we worked there, we used to carry stuff. And so we were able to survive. But then, sitting there, we were one of those camps which belonged to Gross Rosen, maybe was by 50, 60 miles away from Breslau. And we could see it at night, the skies light up when the Russians were bombarding Breslau. So shortly afterwards, I believe late January, we were shipped out. We walked over 5 days. Most of the time we didn't get any food because the Russians were coming in closer. So then we started really the hardship.
You had to walk for 5 days?
Pardon?
You said you had to walk?
Oh yes, we walked for 5 days. At night we rested, and anybody who left behind got shot, you know, just because people couldn't walk.
Was this in the winter, the summer?
It was in the winter time because there was, if I am correct, was end of January or early February. So we used to walk, and finally we arrived to, I don't recall the place where it was, and they put us in cattle cars, and threw, I don't remember how many breads they threw in the cars, and everybody, it was a big riot. Everybody wanted a piece of bread. At one time, I was attempting to jump from the train, but I couldn't leave my father behind. It just made me stay. I could even stay in the ghetto because the 800 Jews survived in the lodge ghetto. But we were a pretty close family, and it's hard to leave father, mother, you know, so you just go with them. The second time I had opportunity to jump the train and looked at my father, I still didn't do it. So we arrived in Flossenburg. We stayed there 2 weeks in quarantine, which we didn't do nothing. Next was a big pit where they were burning corpses. Flossenburg, although, had a crematorium also. But I don't know what was happening. But the next, standing at the fence, I could see corpses, and they were burning them in the open pits. We stayed there 2 weeks. They tried to separate us over there, but somehow we managed to stay together. And
what did they want to do?
Pardon?
What did they want to do to separate you?
They called by separation. They tried to send my father someplace else, and tried to send someplace else me. But somehow, and there was a other father's son. They tried to separate them too. So somehow we switched, and we stayed together.
They would purposely try to separate you because you were.
No, I don't believe so. Purposely, I don't believe they'd even know, because first of all, nothing went by name. Everything went by number.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow we stayed again together.
Mm-hmm.
And we were shipped to at Camp Laumburg near Stuttgart. We stayed there, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 weeks also. Over there we saw the first American planes bombing. They were hitting the factories, but then they used to take the inmates, the prisoners, whatever you want to call, to clean up the town. I never went, I never volunteered again. After this, and we didn't do anything there, but just we sat there 2 or 3 weeks out of quarantine.
You wouldn't do anything there, just wait?
Nothing.
Was there food? What were the conditions like there?
Oh, just about 8, 9 people in 2 beds, whatever it is, you know.
And was there food?
Food, very little. But it was getting, every time was worse because of the war was coming to an end, although we didn't realize that at the time. But we figure if you get less food, something's happening. After we left Lamberg, we arrived in Kaufring, Lager 3, Camp 3. I think there were about 9 camps over there. And
what country is this in? What country?
Everything was in Germany.
This is in Germany?
See, I was constantly in Germany. After when I was shipped out from Auschwitz, I was constantly in Germany. Over there, we didn't do anything else either. The bunkers were underground. And I had a friend who was in charge of a bunker which they used to bring in already the dying people who were ready to die. He was sick, so I used to help him out. My job was, when the person died, was to undress him, put the number on his tie, his serial number, and of course, when he had some bread left, I used to take it and clean it up from the 8-footed, whatever, from the lice, let's put it this way. And I used to share with my father. But he caught typhoid fever in camp. And so, see, I already had typhoid fever in the ghetto. So I was immune for a while. So he was very sick, and we kept him in. Since we didn't go to work, we kept him inside. And one night, my friend asked me, he says, "Stay over here, I feel so bad, you know." So I stayed with him, slept there. In the morning when I got up, he survived, but he was half dead. But 90% of the people were dead inside. I was one of the few who survived.
He died of typhoid?
Yeah. Today it's everything. You laugh, but not at that time. And then we were transferred to the other camp in Kaufring, to camp number 4. And they tried to separate the people who are able to move from the people who, like my father, was sick. But since I didn't want to get separated, I got underneath the cover with him together. So they took us and put us in the wagon together as sick people, although I wasn't sick. And we were transferred in railroad cars, on a way which we didn't know at the time. We were on the way to the Dachau concentration camp. And on the way to Dachau from Kaufring. Kaufring is maybe, I believe, about 40 miles from Munich. But we were on one track, pulls up a army train on the next track. And before we know, the American planes are there. And they were shooting indiscriminately, machine guns from the planes. We started to run from the train. The Germans runs in the woods. It's a very wooded area, that place. And 136 Jewish people were killed, which this is in the vicinity, the train stopped in the vicinity of Schwabhausen. As a matter of fact, you asked me some pictures. I do have pictures of that taken after the 3 graves, which are at the railroad tracks. Schwabhausen, which after the war, we buried these people. I mean, the people were buried there, but we set up a monument. And we got into Dachau.
Now, were the Jews that were killed
136.
Killed by the Nazis or the?
No, they were killed by American pilots.
When they were
Which I don't believe they realized who we were, because it was an army train on the next track. And at the same time, when I was dragging my father out, we were in open cars. So.
How did you survive that?
Just the bullet didn't hit me. The bullet didn't hit my father either, but the next guy got hit.
Did you run from the train?
Yeah, we tried to run the train. There came out a Hitler Youth, maybe 12 years old, and was shooting at us. So we got back to the train. And surprisingly, even the few Germans which was left behind with us, some people were begging to get shot because of the pains, which they had, shot of an arm, a leg, you know. He says, pretty soon, he tried to be nice, the German. Pretty soon it's going to be over, going to take him to the hospital. And he tried to talk him out, you know. He just somehow, his heart was changing instantly, you know. And eventually we made to Dachau. This had to be, I think I was in Dachau maybe 3 or 4 days, I don't know, and we got liberated by the Americans.
Can you tell us about that? Do you remember that? When you were liberated?
Oh yeah, I watched it. As a matter of fact, I watched when the first American soldier gets in with the tank, and the Germans are still standing at the towers. Every one of them got shot instantly. They didn't even give him a chance to come down. And my father, from big excitement, started yelling, happy. I asked my father, what are you yelling about? He got mad at me because I didn't share the enthusiasm with he, you know.
Why didn't you?
I am, how should I say it? I share the enthusiasm, but in a different way. I don't show it. And sometimes people think that I, don't have the feelings with others. I do have just the same feelings like any other person, only I don't show the feelings.
Uh-huh.
So we got liberated. We got all the food we wanted. Then when the real trouble started, people started dying because of the rich food. No one was, after so many years you didn't have any riches. And one time you get a rich food, you know. People were dying, really dying. And then when they notice what's happening, they cut short of food. Just put everybody on a diet again. Luckily, I wasn't sick either. And the first thing, naturally, you begin to see the cameras, the reporters, and anything like this, pictures. I never saw General Eisenhower at the time because he entered the camp, but I shied away from it too. I don't like to be, I used to call it a guinea pig, just to take pictures of you, how you survived, whatever it is, I didn't even get any shots what anybody took. When they went one way, I went the other way. And we stayed in Dachau. I don't remember how long, maybe a month. We were in quarantine and we were shipped to outside Munich to a camp. And at that time, they took my father to the hospital. I lost track of my father. They took him to an American hospital because he was very sick.
Did he still have typhoid?
Yes, he still had complications from the typhoid. And they took him to the hospital, and I didn't realize, okay, I would say this, wasn't too aggressive to find out. But when I felt a little better, I started looking for him. No one knew anything about him, because I presume at such a time, paperwork, there's no paperwork, whatever it is, you just grab him, take him, you don't even know what his name is. But he found me, surprisingly. There was a Jewish gathering right away. There was a Jewish gathering of the Holocaust survivors. And the place was a DP hospital in St. Ottilien. This is between Munich and Kaufring, or maybe, I don't know maybe Landsberg would mean anything to some people. I presume to some people will mean Landsberg something, because this is the town where most of the Germans were executed who were tried in Nuremberg trial. It was a big DP camp over there. St. Ottilien was a cloister, which the German took it and made a German hospital out of it. But after the war, the Germans were expelled and it was made a displaced person hospital. And my father was in this hospital. And just happened the delegate from the room which I slept with him, he attended that meeting. And my father was asking questions. He says, yes, I know the fellow. As a matter of fact, we roomed together. This way, he found me. I shouldn't say I found him, but since the transportation was very poor, I walked from Munich to the hospital, maybe 25, 30 miles. I walked there and just got reacquainted again with my father.
How long had it been since you'd been separated?
Oh, it was several months only.
Several months?
Several months, I think I was liberated, I believe, the 29th of April, 1945. And I think he found me someplace July in 45. So I came over to that camp, to that hospital. After that, I decided I'm going to hitchhike to Poland, see what's going to happen. Maybe I find somebody. When I got back to the town, to the city I was born, I talked to some of the 800 Jews which got liberated. We used to work with them. But funny part, I did get a pretty cold reception. didn't even was offered a meal. But it's okay. Then I went to the house I used to live. The caretaker of the house, I could never understand. They always spoke German between themselves. The brothers, they were carpenters, and they always spoke Germans. But they stayed behind. I don't know why. I never questions. But I was asking questions, and I asked particularly the question of that friend of mine, which we used to fight. Whatever happened to him? So they told me, when the Germans came, he went to work in a factory. And he made a statement which the Germans didn't like it. So that they took him to a concentration camp. A month later, they sent the ashes home. I say, is his father alive? Yes. He lived in a nice Jewish apartment, his father. I says, I got to go visit him. Just while I go over there, his father is standing in front of the house. I say, do you remember me? He couldn't because I was undernourished. I was always heavy. I said, do you remember me? He says, no. So I told him what my name is. I thought he dies. You see, you were asking for Hitler. What happened to your son? He didn't answer. And I didn't do anything about it. I could. I didn't do anything about it because I didn't intend to stay in Poland. And I came back to Germany. I did get a job over there in that hospital where my father stayed. Stayed there for about 2 years. Then I got married in 46.
You worked in the hospital for 2 years?
Yes, I worked in the hospital. I was a policeman, a displaced person policeman.
And your father was there too?
Yeah, yes, he was a patient.
For 2 years?
So I married in 46. Then we moved to other town where they were dissolving that hospitals. I moved to another town and took a job in a sanatorium for undernourished children. Our job was to see that the kids have enough food every day. There's children who came some from the Soviet Union, some came from which were hidden by the Polish families. And when came, they were very undernourished. So our job was then in 6 weeks to bring him back up, which we did. And in 1950, we arrived in this country, in January 1950.
Now, what made you decide to come here?
Well, to go back to Poland was out of the question. In Germany, I wouldn't stay. We intended to go first to Israel, but circumstances, my father changed his mind. He didn't want to go to Israel. So it's still again the same thing. You didn't want to separate. So we came to the United States.
Did you have any relatives here?
No, just came to the highest.
What?
The highest. Do you know what the highest is? A Hebrew immigration organization, whatever it is, you know. It's something like the joint, but it's a different It's got a different name. It's also it's today. I don't think it's too much known, but the highest, HIAS as the initials of the thing, you know. Well, we came to Columbus. Fortunately, got a job the first day, and I'm still working. I lost my wife in 1978. And I lost a daughter in 78.
Is your father still alive?
Yes. So yeah, just my father's still alive. She's sick, but she's making it.
He's a real survivor, isn't he?
He's 90 plus. Oh, I guess this is started.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.